Welcome back to the deep dive, everyone. Ready to explore something new today? We're going to be tackling English law and how it all connects to public health.
Sounds kind of serious, right? But trust me, it's way more interesting than you might think.
Exactly. We've got some awesome source material to guide us real course materials from a university's public health law program.
Yeah, it's not just dry legal jargon, though. They actually make you think about this stuff right from the start.
Oh, I like that. So what's the first brain teaser they hit us with?
Well, one of the first things they ask is, what is law? Seems simple, but it's actually way more complicated when you really try to define it.
Huh, you're right. I mean, we all know laws are there, but explaining it clearly, that's a tough one. It's kind of like you know it when you see it, right?
Exactly. It's this whole system, right? Rules, principles, all this history built into it, and it's always changing. It's there to keep things running smoothly, help us when we disagree, that sort of thing.
Like a framework for how we live together, yeah.
Exactly. And one of the big things they emphasize is the difference between public law and private law. It's a key distinction.
Okay, so break that down for me. What's the difference?
So public law is all about how individuals and the state interact. Think criminal law, constitutional law, all those big picture rules.
Gotcha. So, like, my rights as a citizen, limits on what the government can do, that's all public law territory.
Exactly. It's the rules of the game for the whole society. Private law, or civil law as it's sometimes called, that's more about when people or organizations have disagreements.
Like contract disputes, or if my neighbor's tree falls on my car.
Exactly. Private law is more about resolving those specific situations, usually with things like financial compensation.
Makes sense. So public law is for everyone, and
Right.
private law is more, well, private. But within those categories, it gets even more nuanced, right? Like, what's the deal with civil versus criminal cases? I've never been totally clear on that.
Yeah, that's a common point of confusion. The course does a great job explaining it, though. Basically, criminal law kicks in when someone does something that harms society as a whole.
So if someone robs a bank, it's not just the bank that's the victim. It's like a crime against everyone's sense of security.
Precisely. In that case, the state goes after the criminal with the goal of punishment, prison, fines, things like that. It's about maintaining order for everyone.
Gotcha. So then civil cases, those are more focused on making things right between individuals or groups, right?
Exactly. Say your neighbor's playing opera music at 3 a.m., keeping you up all night. If you took them to court, it would likely be a civil case.
And I could sue them for, like, making me lose sleep and impacting my well-being.
Well, you could try. But yeah, in a civil case, the focus is usually on finding a solution that remedies the harm that was done, often through some form of compensation.
Okay, I'm starting to see the difference now. So how does this all tie back to public health specifically? I mean, we've been talking general law stuff so far.
It's all connected. This distinction between civil and criminal cases, it shows up all the time in public health issues. Let me give you an example. Imagine a company is polluting a river. Now you've got a situation where people are getting sick, the environment's being harmed. That's where public health law comes in.
Right, because it's impacting the well-being of a whole community, not just one or two individuals.
Exactly. And that company can face action on both the civil and criminal sides. People who got sick could sue them directly. That'd be civil.
Okay.
But then the government could also step in and file criminal charges because it's about protecting the public as a whole.
Wow, so it's like a two-pronged legal attack.
That's intense. This course really dives deep into this stuff, huh?
Oh, yeah, it does. It even gets into the whole court system in England and Wales, where this specific course is from.
Yeah, that makes sense because, like, if we're talking about law, we got to talk about where those laws get, debated and decided.
Exactly. They actually ask a really interesting question early on. Imagine a world without courts. Like, what then? Whoa. Yeah, that'd be chaos. We need some system to, like, handle disagreements and make sure the law actually means something.
Right. It highlights how important courts are. But then it also gets into how complicated they can be. All the different types of courts, levels of authority, all that.
Yeah, it's not just one big courtroom where everything happens right. You're like, what kind of stuff do they talk about in this course?
Well, they break down the English system, which is pretty hierarchical. Starts with magistrate courts. Those handle less serious stuff like minor offenses or smaller civil cases.
Okay.
Then you've got crown courts. Those are for the more serious crimes. And at the very top, there's the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court.
So it's like a ladder. You start at the bottom, and if things are serious enough or someone disagrees with the outcome, you can go higher.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. The higher you go, the bigger the issues, more authority the court has.
Makes sense. And I bet there have been some crazy cases over the years, especially dealing with public health, like landmark decisions that really changed things.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, part of this course involves researching those big historical cases. They encourage you to see how these legal principles actually play out in real life.
That's awesome. Because sometimes just reading the theory is like, okay, but how does this actually work in practice?
Right. It's like that saying, the devil's in the details. And these real-life examples, they really bring it all to life.
They're so fascinating, right? Like you can see the arguments, how the judges interpreted the law. It's like peeking behind the curtain of history a bit.
Totally. And those landmark cases, they set precedents, right? So they shape how the law is understood and applied even today.
So it's not just about the past, it's about understanding how those decisions still impact us now.
That's so cool. I wonder if there are any examples from those old cases that still matter for public health now.
Well, think about things like early vaccination laws or regulations on food safety. Those were often born out of some pretty major public health crises in the
Oh,
past.
wow. Like, those old cases were literally laying the groundwork for how we deal with those things today. That's
Yeah,
wild. It's true. And it shows that law isn't just some abstract thing. It's directly shaped by what's happening in the world, by these real-life challenges.
totally. And it keeps evolving, right? Like new cases pop up all the time that push the boundaries of what we thought the law meant.
All the time,
Yeah.
especially now, with technology changing so fast, new medical advancements. There's always something new challenging the legal system.
Yeah, like what about all the debates around genetic engineering? That's got to be a legal minefield.
Oh, yeah. Huge ethical and legal questions there.
Hmm.
And this course actually touches on that a little, how English law is grappling with some of these emerging technologies.
That's fascinating. So we've got the history, but then also this very cutting edge stuff that's pushing the boundaries of law as we speak. Man, this is making me realize how much I don't know.
Well, that's the beauty of it, right? There's always something new to learn.
Yeah.
And this course does a good job of kind of reminding you that law is bigger than just one country, too.
Oh, right. Because English law, that's just one piece of the puzzle. What did they say about that in the course?
They touch on how English law has been influenced by European law, even though, Brexit happened.
Right. So many layers. Like, how much does that still matter, even after Brexit? I bet that causes some confusion.
Definitely does. And it shows how interconnected legal systems are. You can't just look at one in isolation.
It's like trying to understand a single sentence in a whole library of books. We've been talking for a while, and I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
I know, right? But even with just this intro, I feel like it's given us a good framework for thinking about law in a more nuanced way.
Yeah, for sure. It's like we've zoomed out a bit, and now we can see all these connections, all these different factors that play into it. It's kind of eye-opening, honestly.
It really is. And for me, that's what makes this whole topic so fascinating and important too. Because once you start to grasp how law works, even just the basics, it can really empower you.
Empowering how so?
Well, think about it. If you understand your rights, if you know how policies are made and enforced, you're in a much stronger position.
Yeah, right. Especially when it comes to things that impact your health, your community.
Right, because you're not just at the mercy of whatever's happening, you can actually maybe do something about it.
Exactly. You can advocate for yourself, for your family. Knowledge is power, they say, and understanding the law, even a little bit, can make a big difference.
I like that. It's like taking away some of the mystery, some of the intimidation that a lot of people feel when it comes to legal stuff.
Totally. And this course emphasizes that, how even a basic grasp of these principles can make you a more informed citizen, a more effective advocate.
So it's not just about becoming a lawyer, it's about giving people the tools to understand the system and navigate it for themselves.
Exactly. Like one example they give in the material is about environmental regulations. If you understand how those rules are made, how they're enforced.
Well, then you're in a much better position to hold polluters accountable or advocate for stricter protections, things like that.
But because you know the rules of the game, so to speak.
Exactly. And that knowledge, that's what gives you a voice in those conversations.
Yeah.
It's not just about like passively accepting whatever's happening around you.
I love that. It's like, yeah, law can feel complicated, but it's not magic. There's a logic to it, a system.
Right. And once you start to see those patterns, that logic,
Yeah.
it becomes less daunting, more manageable.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So as we wrap up this deep dive, any final thoughts for our listeners? What's the one big takeaway you hope they'll remember?
One big takeaway. I'd say, remember that law isn't static. It's not just a bunch of rules carved in stone.
Mhm.
It's constantly changing, evolving.
Right, like we were talking about earlier, with all the new technology, new challenges popping up all the time.
Exactly. It's a reflection of us, of our values, our struggles, our aspirations as a society. And because of that, it's something we can all engage with, we can all influence.
I love that. It's like we're not just subject to the law, we're participants in it, even if we don't realize it.
Precisely. And that participation, that engagement, that's what drives progress, what makes the system work better for everyone.
On that note of active participation, let's wrap up this deep dive into the fascinating world of English law and public health. We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have. Hopefully we've sparked some curiosity, given you some new insights, maybe even inspired you to dig a little deeper on your own.
Because knowledge is power, as they say, and understanding the law is a powerful tool to have in your arsenal, no matter who you are or what you do.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for having me on. This was a fun one.
It was great having you, as always. And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on the deep dive. We'll catch you next time for another fascinating exploration.